Professor Rudra Pratap. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and joining us here today. So we were talking about what's happening in the schools. And after that, the ball is in your court. It's where students come after they have kind of done their 12 plus 3, the 15 years that have now been brought in to the new NEP. You have taken a very different course for Plaksha. You analyzed, you thought the Plaksha system, thought about it, that here is a country which has the Indian Institutes of Technology. It has several RECs all across. It's a fairly successful system. It has produced CEOs who are kind of globally taking India's name forward, contributing massively to technology, innovation, development. Everything seems to be going okay, I mean, if one looks at it broadly. And yet comes a new model which talks about a different future. What has triggered the creation of this idea, this model? And this is a model which appears to be rapidly developing. So what changed? What was the space that was created? And why did you think of reimagining, reinventing, or realigning technological education?
Jyoti, first of all, thank you for having me here.
Our pleasure.
It's a pleasure to be here. You said something which was somewhat telling. You said everything was going okay. So it was going okay. You want it to go great. Right. You don't want it to just go okay. You know, I have been through that system.
You're from IIT Kharagpur?
Yes.
Yes.
Got my graduation from IIT, taught at Indian Institute of Science for 25 years before taking up Plaksha. So what we have seen is...
in between you went to the US also, so you
yes,
know their
course.
educational system
yeah.
as well. Arizona and Cornell.
That's right.
Yeah.
I did my PhD at Cornell and taught there also for 2.5 years before coming back to India. So, you know, this churn has been there for last about 30 years in education, in technical education, that what we are doing is not right. You know, it needs to change. It needs to change. Churn started somewhere in late 80s, and by 2000, everybody, all educationists, thinking educationists, were becoming uncomfortable in their chairs, that what we are doing, is this right? And this is because, if you know, you will have to look at the history of technical education a bit. For 200 years, how technical education evolved. The modern technical education, as we know, its chassis is World War II chassis, on which it is riding, right? Headlights, tail lights change and all that changes, but the chassis is still the same. And that needed a massive change. Why did it need a massive change? In your previous session, you pointed that out, or Robin pointed out, that look, information, lots of students, or most of students, used to go to universities, schools, to get information. Information is now readily available. Information comes to you. You don't go to get information. Information comes to you. So if that's the case, information has become ubiquitous everywhere, right? How do you change the education system which was riding on imparting or passing on information? You know, writing on the board and students copying that is basically that idea, right? That information has to be passed. How do you change that now, right? So this is the basic premise of changing education as a whole. Now, technical education, what had happened was, starting from apprenticeship, which was the beginning of technical education. You know, as an apprentice, I'm a young apprentice, I'll work with somebody who knows the craft, and you will look over my shoulder and guide me, train me, and then I become an engineer, right? From there to late 20th century, when we became far more theoretical in our engineering education, and industries started shouting and screaming that engineers coming out today don't have hands-on work, don't have hands-on experience, you know, they don't function very well. This idea of experiential learning started making inroads. And we realized that even for theoretical knowledge, the way we are imparting this education is not right. You know, it's not sitting in. You are taking courses, you are writing exams, you're passing exams, but you are really not getting the kind of education or the kind of integration of knowledge that you need to function as a modern engineer or a scientist. Carl Wyman, who is a great scientist, Nobel laureate, he spent, after his Nobel Prize, I think in 2008, after that he spent enormous amount of time just thinking about education. That what universities are doing with science education is just not right. This is not how we should educate our kids. 10 years, 14 years of his work is just on this. And if you read his work, it's eye-opener that, you know, how we are educating our students is not right. You will get totally convinced. That's why you need reinventing education. That's why you need, you know, reimagining tech education. It's not about growing in silos anymore. I think Robin pointed out that you want problem solvers today. Problems don't come in those silos. That you know, the climate problem that he pointed out. Is it a civil engineering problem? Is it a mechanical engineering problem? Is it electrical engineering problem? Computer science? No. Everybody needs to work in there, right? How do you make students understand that they can span over all of these disciplines or talk to experts from all these disciplines and yet be able to contribute their own? You know, you can't be master of everything. Contribute their own, be able to see that this problem requires me to make a team of 10 people of this kind of expertise. That you should be able to do. That's a non-trivial challenge. What are the skills required to solve a problem of that kind, of that magnitude? Climate problem, while it is global, for India there are thousands of problems that we need to solve today, including personalized education that Vineet was talking about, right? So these are the issues that are facing our country, our society today, and for that, the old-style engineer is not the answer.
That's an interesting observation you made, that non-trivial challenges, the big problems, how do you kind of solve for the big problems? Vineet was earlier talking about identifying what a student's possible skill set could be. Robin was talking about the fact that just after independence you needed a bunch of engineers and doctors, so the system was geared towards that. Now you have complex problems like climate change, artificial intelligence emerging on the horizon, different kinds of problems that need to be now resolved. Now that the bread and butter of engineering has been sorted out, now you need the toppings on it. And for that, you need a certain skill set. You were talking about, should it be mechanical engineering, should it be civil engineering, should it be electrical? There is another layer now. After all of this is sorted out, the human angle to it, the sociology of it, will people adopt change? The psychology of it, will they fear change? So even that, earlier it was clearly humanities perceived to be a lower kind of level of study initially. That was the feeling, that engineering and medicine was at a higher level and humanities was at a lower level. That was the perception and the feeling also that the engineers and the doctors used to have.
The humanities faculty members won't agree with it, right?
They might not, but now there is a change. Humanities is suddenly making its way back, and that's where universities like Plaksha, institutes like Plaksha coming in to kind of address that particular problem. Are you finding it easy to handle it, or even your solution to a complex problem is a complex challenge?
It is complex, and I'll give you one example of this complexity that we were discussing yesterday in faculty meeting at Plaksha with our social sciences faculty members. The idea of integration of humanities in technical education, okay? It used to be that there was a checkbox approach to it, that you have to take certain number of humanities courses, and it was expected that because you took 3 courses, sociology, psychology, or something like that, history, now you know social sciences, or you know enough social sciences to be a good engineer. Now this is basically the problem with that approach, that when you take these courses, those courses also come from siloed thinking. That social science professor himself or herself has also been in that silo, has never thought that how technology has been so clearly affecting your society, your behavior or society or our living, all of it. I wouldn't say that they have never thought. Of course they have thought, but this has not been the mainstream discussion. But today it is mainstream discussion. Right in front of our eyes, the behavior of the next generation, students, kids, all of them, with cell phone, with smartphone, has changed drastically. You see that every day. Our family lives have changed. You see in your home that everybody is sitting around on their smartphones. Who is talking to each other? This is an incredible change in society. The effect of this will be realized or seen 10 years, 15 years later. But an incredible change is taking place. Now, this debate with humanities folks have to be essentially where all technologists are also sitting together. They discuss this issue and then they come up with a knowledge system or generate knowledge at the intersection of the two, social sciences and technology. You also integrate social sciences, not integration doesn't mean that you just teach a course. Are there humanities courses which are being co-taught by an engineering professor and a humanities professor, where they discuss, not that you bring something to the table and the other person brings something to the table. No, integrated approach. This is a challenge. This is a complex challenge. And yesterday when we were discussing this, it came out that all of us are trained in silos. And now that we want to do this intersection, we find ourselves short on expertise to do this. Right? So this dialogue is a must. This discussion is a must. First, at that level where faculty members are, they must figure this out. They must agree with each other and then bring to the classroom. Right?
That's right. In fact, Harjot Singh Bansji, who's the very progressive Education Minister of Punjab, he's joined us. Welcome, Bansji. So, thank you so much. We were talking about school education before this, because ultimately what makes a huge difference to a student's future is after the school education system, because that's an absolute essential. You have to do that. Thereafter the choices begin. Now what do you do? Do you go to a Plaksha? Do you go to an IIT? Do you go to do your medicine? Do you want to go into research? Do you want to take up pure sciences, arts? Do you want to take up diploma? So all those options open up.
Right.
So when you, as an institute which is looking at a very progressive approach towards education, look at the intake, do you see challenges there in terms of people who are coming from the school system and entering your system? Do you see any challenges there? Or in fact that's an opportunity for you, that okay, there is all this diverse set of talents that's entering your system, and you want to now unleash all their varying sets of creativities and then see what is the music that you can make out of it. How do you look upon it?
Every challenge is an opportunity. Every single challenge in life is an opportunity, and this is no different. We do see these challenges. Plaksha University doesn't have its own entrance examination. Actually, we don't like exams at all. The fact that for 18 years we have drilled our kids so much with examination-centered learning, I see that as the singular big problem for education. Exams, marks, as you were pointing out in the last session, that you immediately start asking your kids, how much did you get, in XYZ paper. That, to my mind, prevents learning, real learning. Real learning happens, as Carl Wyman says, that it happens when you make mistakes and you figure out why did you make that mistake. If you figure out why did you make that mistake, that plugs a hole in your understanding. Our exam system doesn't give you that opportunity, right? Also, to explore things outside. You know, you are learning about biology. There is so much biology around you, everywhere. You are learning about chemistry. Is there any chemistry which is more complicated than kitchen chemistry? Right? You're learning about physics. You live physics every single day. But these are, do you see your kids doing experiments at home with things from home, not from the lab? Science has not been internalized because the exam-centric learning does not provide opportunities for this. So there is a huge challenge. We are looking at kids who are just curious. That's it. They're just curious about things in their life, things around them. Plaksha invites them from high school in our Young Tech Scholars program that you are aware, in summers for 2 weeks for complete immersion. And they actually, high school kids, they actually build robots, they actually build ECG machines, EEG machines. They build these things in 2 weeks. Because they are curious, they're so energetic, enthusiastic about building things. We just provide them that opportunity to do it. And they love it.
Dr. Pratap, before I ask you about your vision for the future of education, my second last question to you would be translational research, where you can actually kind of translate research into productive outcomes. Because that is an absolute essential component that India needs to solve problems. There are great challenges in India. It's actually a land of great opportunities, how I look at it now. Because every challenge is waiting to be solved. If Punjab has 1,000 challenges, there are 1,000 solutions that are waiting. So if there are 1,000 challenges, 1,000 solutions, maybe there are 1,000 unicorns that are waiting to be kind of formed. So it's a land of opportunity for now because of the problems that are there. So when you look at translational research, which is going to be an essential component, what you have studied, what you have acquired, the knowledge that you have got, now you need to translate into solving the problems. Is your model actually geared towards translational research to make it possible for the big problems to be identified, think through the solutions, and then solve them?
I'm glad that you asked this question. Very, very, very dear to me, this particular aspect. At Indian Institute of Science, where I worked for 25 years and worked with all government funding agencies, we have struggled with this problem for last several decades. Translational research, in the West, there also it took them a couple of centuries to figure out how to do translational research. Okay? And all these companies came up that do translational research. We do not have that system. Our startups, which are coming today, they are an attempt at translational research, but not quite. What needs to be done is this. At major research universities of this country, you need to set up translational research centers because they require different kind of operation and different kind of folks. I have done in my lab something which is wonderful. I have invented something. I can show you working. When I show you working, it's not in the form of a product. There will be 100 wires hanging around with it. You know, I'll show you result on oscilloscope or something which is, you know, on some visualization which costs a lot of money. That's not a product. That's a prototype which is lab prototype. It shows that this can be done. Right? This is doable. So this is proof of concept. From there, to package it into something which is like a product that some industry will be interested in taking it to the market, it's a big journey. It's called TRL4 to TRL8, Technology Readiness Level, TRL4 to TRL8 journey. For that, you need professional engineers working on this product. Professional engineers, getting professional salary. Their evaluation is not on how many papers they write. Their evaluation is not based on, what kind of grades they get in their exams or their vivas. None of that, right? They are working on making that product work in all situations. Robustization of the product, reliability, manufacturability. All of these issues are addressed in translational research. For that can happen if it is located in these research universities where professional engineers are working, they have a completely different set of ideas. Fraunhofer's work like that in Germany, right? That they have a completely different set of goals, and yet the researchers are, close to them, they are completely available to them, and they are working hand in hand. That's the model that we need to evolve. And I have worked on this quite a bit. I can share details of how we can do it. Plaksha is an opportunity to do it, and I am certainly going to do it at Plaksha.
Professor Pratap, that's unfortunately all the time that we have today. Thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us today. We are going to have you again to kind of actually take this conversation forward in terms of the vision, the actual translation that you were talking about, what else can be done. Thank you so much for taking the time out to join us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Pratap, I would like to request you to stay back on.